health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.
Keep watching The Politics every Friday, 12 p.m. Eastern Time on New York Parrot TV, the voice for humanity.
Good afternoon. I am Robert Press, official reporter for the Bronx Chronicle and several other papers. And let me introduce my co-host today, Anthony RIVIECCIO. Please introduce yourself, Anthony.
Good morning, Robert. Good morning, everyone. Happy Friday. I hope everybody got their coffee because I definitely got mine. My name is Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO. I have 3 lives, as everyone knows. My first and predominant life is that I am the current CEO for a virtual financial service firm called RIVIECCIO Financial Advisors. My second life is that I'm an adjunct professor for personal finance and business at both Herbert H. Lehman College and at Monroe College. And my third life, which brings me here, is that I am the wonderful founder of a crazy organization called Northwest Bronx Democrats.
Okay, we have a lot to talk about today, Anthony. If you saw our promo, the borough president was on there. Why the borough president was on, I don't know, because I don't know if she's a guest today. Do you know, Anthony?
Well, I know she's one of your favorite people. So when I saw the promo this morning, I figured you guys were going to have a love fest.
Well, no, I'll give a little report on some events she's having a little later. But let's get into our usual Bidenomics, Anthony. What is Joe Biden doing to ruin the country now?
No, Bob, I love the way you put that. Bidenomics, as we try to say here on the show and on Financial Focus University every Friday at 5 p.m., we try to cover the financial news and market information on a weekly basis. And if I had to sum up this week so far, I think one word covers it, and it's basically called flat. Inflation has come in this week. According to Joe Biden, it was flat. Retail sales numbers came in this week. They were reported as flat. Jobless claim numbers came in this week. They were reported as flat. So later on in my report, I will be going on a day-by-day basis showing that the numbers came in pretty much this week flat, except for today. Today, we're having a very troublesome day. Today, as we speak, we're down 1.3%. There are a variety of different factors for it. The biggest one being that, ladies and gentlemen, and I'm now talking to the new generation of women as well as men, feel free to call Beth and Beyond as we speak, because they've already lost half their market value in 24 hours. So I presume you can get your towels on sale very quickly at the moment. So Bidenomics, which will officially be closed today at 4 p.m. when the market closes, shows a very flat week, but a very troublesome Friday. So, Robert, the Bob Press Gloom and Doom Index that we generally keep up with on a weekly basis, and I hope I'm wrong, I think is going to show a downwards week.
Well, let's say hello to one of our viewers, JD Cassie. Good
Hey,
morning.
JD.
And let's go into what's happening right now during, we have an election going on right now. But unfortunately, a lot of people don't know that. We have early voting going on, which started on Saturday and ends on Sunday. And I'll just go over a few of the numbers. On day one, 619 Bronxites voted in early voting. As we go down, the numbers are about 500 a day. And on day 6, the number is 2,942 Bronxites have voted. We do have 6 races. We have 3 congressional races, 2 Democrat and 1 Republican, and we have 3 state Senate races. So is everybody waiting for primary day to vote? Manhattan has 2 big congressional races. They've already gotten over 24,000 people to the poll sites. And Brooklyn, which is the other part of the 10th congressional race, has almost 14,000 people. In all, over 48,000 people have voted. And once again, the Bronx is last in the number of voters. Staten Island has 4,336 people who voted. That's almost 1,400 more people that voted in Staten Island than in the Bronx. Anthony, can you help me out and answer the question, why aren't people voting in the Bronx?
Well, why aren't people voting in the Bronx, which I can answer that question, is a different question than saying, well, what is early voting doing to the aggregate numbers? So let me answer your specific question. How come people aren't voting? Very simple, sadly. We live now in a transient borough. We do not live in a generational type borough any longer. So I don't think most of our new residents care when the garbage is picked up. I don't think they care when the parks have to be cleaned. I don't think they care when they zoom through a red light. And being a transient borough, the reason why they don't care is because they're too busy looking for the next place they're going to live. So as long as they know their paychecks coming in, they got the grocery store, the bodega on the corner, sadly, no one cares about voting in the Bronx because most of our new residents are technically not from the Bronx.
You're correct, because those houses, especially by you, those houses that had families and children in school, which was real, a good part of the community, are gone. And those big apartment buildings went up with, 600 square feet apartments, where it was for one
I can sum up 20 years of destruction of Bedford Park in 2 minutes, which is basically, and again, as I always say to you, the East Side's about ready to have the same problem.
Yes. Yes.
All you got to do is rezone, allow it to go up. They claim they're doing this for multi-residential and business reasons, right? And on paper, it sounds wonderful. The reality is that developers come in, they build up, they put together what are called supportive housing programs with the New York City agencies. No matter what color the ice cream cake is, as I always say, as long as it has a lottery component to it, then basically these people are not from the designated area. They're from other areas. What we're finding out here in Bedford Park after 20 years is that at least 60, 70% of our new residents are basically from Brooklyn. So they have no bias to the Bronx as far as wanting to keep it happy. I don't know if their next destination is back to Brooklyn. I might presume some of them might be. Or again, they might be going somewhere else. But as we're fine, as we can see from the census, for every person that's now moving out of the Bronx, we have someone coming in. And that
several
people coming in is through supportive housing lottery measures. That's
right. You have a lot of people moving in when people leave the Bronx. Well, polls are open today from 10 to 3, Saturday and Sunday 9 to 5. Sunday is the last day of early voting. Please go out and vote, unless you're waiting for the primary date, Tuesday, August 23rd to vote. We have.
And Robert, if I could say something on that, I know the last couple of weeks, or I should say our organization has been promoting vote for none of the above. But let me give a more realistic answer, if I might. I think I read this, that another state was having elections, and there was a write-in campaign for public safety. So in that race, in this particular out-of-state race where you had two candidates running, a Democrat and a Republican, there was a significant amount of write-in votes for public safety. Ladies and gentlemen, pick your community issue, whatever that is, cleaner parks, whatever it is, and write that in, okay? Because I can tell you, I'm sure Bob will tell you later, that none of the above, although a sufficient choice, basically brings us maybe even worse, right? So let's tell our legislators, let's tell the general public, let's tell the Board of Elections, let's tell Mayor Adams, who I'm sure will be sitting there on election night, counting some of the votes that are coming in and some of the votes he already put in. Let's tell them exactly what's wrong with our city. Put down what you believe is your #1 community complaint, and now you have the democratic choice and the democratic right to write it in and let them know.
Well, I'm going to mention something Reverend Ruben Diaz said. Okay, Reverend Ruben Diaz came out with one of his "What You Should Know" things, and in that he says that the Bronx Democratic Party leader could be in trouble if the 34th and the 33rd Senate districts, their candidates, Migliano Camilo in the 33rd and Natalia Fernandez in the 34th, if they lose, we might see a new county leader. All right, so I mean,
well, you know, Bob, I think Reverend Diaz is somewhat correct in his analysis, but I also think, as he does on many an occasion, get overblown.
That's correct.
There's no doubt that the quote-unquote Dominican force here in the Bronx exists. No one is doubting that. But to turn around and say, as it was said in that article, that Miss Camilio is all of a sudden an Espillard candidate because she's, quote, Dominican, that's a piece of malarkey. Now, 29 people own Miss Camilio, including county, but they ain't the only ones. Many other people own her. But Mr. Espillard, I believe, is number 29 down the bottom. But because he's Dominican, and because many of our media today want to write about the Dominican force, all of a sudden, she's attached to Espillard. And as I said to you off camera, and I'll say it now on camera, you can look at that even in certain parts of the Bronx. Perfect example, Councilwoman Farina Sanchez, who we supported for city council. It's no secret on our side of town, Espillard came in last minute. Yes, he gave support. Yes, they're both Dominican. That doesn't mean that Farina does everything that Espillard wants. Right? You can ask county. County will tell you that. Her constituents will tell you that. The fact that she's working on things right now, like the Kingsbridge Armory, that Mr. Espillard might have other ideas, right? Tells you that she is not in his pocket. So I really think there's this overblownness of saying, is there a Dominican force in the west side of the Bronx? Absolutely. Nobody would dispute that. Who runs that? I think that's subject to debate. But to say that Miss Camilio is an Espillard protege, that's a lot of malarkey.
Well, I originally thought she would be a Jeffrey Dinowitz candidate, but we're seeing how weak Jeffrey Dinowitz is. All right, because
Bob, yes and no. Yes and no. I don't know if you got the report this morning. I understand in the last couple of days, Jeffrey Dinowitz gave her $10,000.
Correct. All right. And that's something unusual because Jeffrey really doesn't like to give away money. He normally
I
gives away.
know. From what I understand, he had to pull 500. Gustavo Rivera had to pull $500 out of his butt just to get rid of Pedro Espada. So for him to get 10,000, let me ask you, Bob, do you really think that was his money?
No, it was money that goes around. It goes around and around.
Around and around. So he was just passing it around, right?
Right.
Do you think while he was passing it around, just like we would pass around food, do you think we might grab a little bit?
Well, the problem is, Tony, with public financing, we see that people give money to candidates. The candidate gets 8-1 back in the city council races. And then all of a sudden, these people are being paid by the candidate who gave them money. So, they're getting the salary in the 8-1 matching funds. We found that on several candidates last year. But you know what? Let me talk a little bit about our borough president, Vanessa Gibson, while we have some time. All right. We have an excellent borough president who's been out there. She's had a lot of problems. And if you check my blog, you'll see her weekly report. For instance, this week, she celebrated the 40th annual Dominican Day Parade by marching in on 6th Avenue with many Dominicans from the Bronx, including Adriano Espiat. She has her summer concert series at Orchard Beach. This Sunday is another one, August 21st. Tomorrow is one of her Bronx cleanup Saturdays in Hunts Point. And she also had a forum about monkeypox and warning Bronxites because it seems that...
Bob, doesn't the borough president do anything else besides have events and activities? You haven't told me about any policy change or any... So, I know of one. I'll bring it up in a moment. But you haven't mentioned that.
Well, you can find her reports on my blog at www.
No, all you said in the report is that there are events and activities. All you said in your report is that there were events and activities.
Anthony, let me finish.
Done any policy change? Has she recommended any policy change? Has she given any money to any organizations?
Yes, Anthony. Yes, Anthony, but I don't have that right now. It was listed.
You don't have that right now, then why are we talking about it? Come on. So she's giving events and activities. Ladies and gentlemen, tonight at 10 o'clock, I might be at the Jolly Tinker, and I might be at the Jolly Tinker with an overnight guest. Feel free to join us. It's a free activity.
And you can follow the borough president on Facebook or Twitter at
Bob, let's talk about one of her policy changes. I understand that in September, she has pronounced that, and I might be saying this wrong, MUTIU Park is now going to be Reverend Wendell Foster.
Correct.
Park. How do you feel about that?
How do I feel about that? Wendell Foster was a terrific person, the Reverend.
I didn't say he wasn't, but MUTIU Park is a park that's also named after a historic gentleman. He's also a founder of the Bronx County Historical Association, one of the founding members. So it was named after another person too.
Well, Anthony, we see that sometimes. It goes on, it happens. And there's
so it's okay? You think this is a good borough president move, is what you're saying?
It's up to the residents in the community. It's
not up to the residents. Ms. Gibson didn't take any polls or surveys. This is one of her policy pronouncements.
Anthony, she was the councilwoman in that area for 8 years. She happens to know people. All right. She took over for, I forgot her name already, Wendell Foster's daughter, who was the councilwoman, and the Reverend was the councilman before his daughter was the councilwoman.
So then this could be a favor.
No, it's not a favor.
We're going to eliminate a portion of Bronx history that stood up there for over 50, 60 years for a favor.
Anthony, it's not a favor.
Well, what is it? You just said that the daughter was the councilwoman, and correct me if I'm wrong, didn't the woman take over for the father?
The daughter took over for the father.
Right. So it sounds
because
like
of term limits.
I'm not saying that both Fosters didn't do a great job. Wendell and Helen who's the daughter.
Yeah, Helen,
Wonderful
Diane
job.
Helen, of course.
But again, this park is named after someone else, right? It's named after a Bronx historian. It's no different to me than Southern Boulevard. All of a sudden, they got changed to Kazmioff Boulevard and then went back to Southern. To me, it's no different. This is a policy pronouncement. And I asked you, how do you feel about it?
How do I feel about it? I have no opinion on it, Anthony.
No, you had an opinion a minute ago. Okay.
I have no opinion on it. Okay. Let's move on. Let's see. We have about 10 minutes before our commercial. So let's talk a little bit about the 33rd and 34th Senate race while we have the discussion. 33rd Senate race, as you said, Migliero Camilo against State Senator Gustavo Rivera. And Gustavo Rivera has been endorsed by Alessandra Ocasio-Cortez.
Forgive me, as we go on with this discussion and we talk about horse manure, I have the urge for a cigarette. Go ahead.
Team AOC will be doing an event with Senator Gustavo Rivera at the Pelham Parkway Houses at 2:30. So after the show, I will take a walk over to Pelham Parkway Houses to see. That is where Congresswoman Ocasio-Cortez visited and said that, basically where she introduced her new Green Deal. Unfortunately, that was 2 years ago, and nothing has happened with the new Green Deal. We've seen some NYCHA houses being fixed, but that's after evicting some of the tenants because it has to be Section 8 through the RAD program. But really, our public housing is in dire need of fixing. And where the money is going to come from, we don't know. We see our president throwing billions of dollars around. And at the time when I questioned Mayor de Blasio, the problem, I said to him, well, what's the problem in NYCHA? He said, well, it would take $18 billion to fix it. That was under Mayor de Blasio. It has mushroomed up to over $50 billion under Mayor Adams. So I don't know. The people who live in NYCHA deserve decent housing. Okay. They also deserve decent schools. And the Bronx, unfortunately, the schools back in 2019 students were performing at a 67% rate compared to the other four boroughs that were doing from 82 to 88%, depending on which borough you were in. All right. It's a shame that the Bronx has been dumped on for almost 8 years by Mayor de Blasio, and Mayor Adams is trying to make up for that with the help of Borough President Gibson, and it's going to take a lot more.
You stop kissing the butt. Stop kissing the butt. Mayor de Blasio almost killed the Bronx. What saved the Bronx was not Mayor Adams. What saved Mayor Bronx was that he decided not to run again. Mayor Adams, as I'm sure you're aware, is going full steam ahead with his supportive housing program. So as you know, in your district, you'll be having several of them coming in shortly. And Miss Gibson, I believe, is in total agreement with this.
Wow.
So wonderful this, wonderful.
Anthony.
That's a matter of opinion. One man's garbage is another man's gold, and vice versa.
Anthony, it was Mayor Adams that stopped 140-unit homeless shelter, single adult men's homeless shelter.
Oh, I don't know. 7 weeks ago, you said it was you. Then you said it was Angelo. Then you said it was Jesus Christ. Stop it. Mayor Adams is on record. He's coming to your neighborhood, and I call it Rikers Light, because that's basically what it is.
What I understand,
Jacoby, put the Rikers
you're going to discuss
in
that
there,
later,
and we're going to rezone the area,
and
it's just going to get higher and higher.
You're going to discuss it later in the show.
Welcome to Bedford Park 2022.
So tell us, Anthony, how does Bedford Park feel?
How does Bedford Park feel after 20 years of destruction? Good question. Bob, I walk around today, and it's just amazing. Between the new residents, new quality of life, I just can't describe it. It's not the Bedford Park that one would remember. But I guess in today's Bronx, that goes for a lot of neighborhoods, right? I mean, crime is, because again, right, you just mentioned Mayor de Blasio, right? Well, he just didn't concentrate on Bedford Park. He concentrated on the city. So all of these wonderful enclaves that New York has had for the last 50, 60 years when you put in the Mayor de Blasio policies, the supportive housing policies, and then the trickle-down effect thereafter, you have areas, and we can go beyond the Bronx. We can look at Park Slope, right? Just one example. Have anybody that was from Park Slope 10 years ago go there now and tell you if they recognize it, right? You can go to Bensonhurst. You can go to South Ozone Park in Queens. All of these little enclaves that are both no longer little and no longer an enclave.
Oh, no, I looked at my old neighborhood, Far Rockaway, that I grew up in. It is not the same Far Rockaway. The school,
no, as a matter of fact, that's where they beat up the taxi driver in the late afternoon.
And Anthony, it was bad 40 years ago, and it's worse now. Okay, but let me ask you about.
What makes it worse now, Bob? And again, let's be very clear. And since you mentioned your wonderful borough president, let's talk about her position on this. What makes it worse now is one thing and one thing only. Because yes, in the 1970s, I was in a gang too, called the Devil's Disciples on Tremont Avenue. And did we do stupid things? Absolutely. But the one thing that every gang did not do, and the reason why we did it, we did not do it, was very simple. Because we did not want to get busted. Was that we did not rob, we did not steal, we did not do anything bad during the day. Why? Because you didn't want to get caught. Well, now with the, I could just walk out of jail tomorrow, free pass card that your borough president supports, well, now you can get robbed 2 in the afternoon, 2 in the morning, 5 in the afternoon, let's have a mobile for lunch. So, the whole 9 yards.
Let me ask you a question then, Anthony. In the 34th State Senate District, which goes from Parkchester, Castle Hill, up into New Rochelle, what is the number one problem?
Well, Bob, that's a very good question. And I love how you changed the subject. But there have been many reports, both the newspaper reports as well as current debates on the district, that I do understand that it's a new, quote unquote, new district. The new 34th is definitely not the old 34th. But to hear that the candidates believe climate change is the number one problem, and granted, I don't live there, so I'm going to, when it's a brand new district, so I'm not going to be overly critical. But I find that to be amazing. Climate change. I didn't know Castle Hill had climate change. I didn't know that Parkchester was scared of waves and water coming down. I didn't know that. It's brand new news to me. It's a brand new problem. I think they're all out of their mind.
This week's Bronx Times and Bronx Times Reporter has a interview of all three candidates. Candidate Natalia Fernandez says climate control is the number one problem. Candidate what's his name there? Christian Amato says it's infrastructure that's the main problem. And candidate John Perez says crime is the main problem in the area. Well, you've hit it on the head, Anthony. You said crime. And that's where Mr. Perez agrees. Says it's crime. But we'll continue this discussion a little later after a commercial.
Bob, you have to tell your candidate that if we're on the same page, he's got to put out some mailings so everyone besides you and I know that that's what he wants for crime.
Well, the Bronx Times
like
has
I'm sure you've woken up to many mailers in the mail. I've gotten 3 or 4 in the last 3 days on just Miss Camellia.
And I expect to talk about this one.
Right, but how come we're not getting any from your candidate John Perez? But how come we're not getting any from your candidate John Perez?
And I expect to talk about this one.
Very good, but where is John Perez's?
Well, Anthony, that takes money. These are union endorsed.
Oh, so he's got a good voice, but no money.
Well, unfortunately, that's what many candidates have. And Anthony,
Bob, you got to be a better campaign manager. You got to be a better campaign manager. You might have a candidate with a good voice, but you got to learn how to get money.
We're at the halfway mark. We're going to have to go to a commercial now, and we'll continue this discussion after our commercial.
All roads lead to the land of Terenga, the home of hospitality. Join us as we put Senegal in the brightest spotlight in Africa for the historic inaugural Daylight Africa Week, also known as Transatlantic Family Reunification Week and African Open House Week. Daylight Africa Week event is scheduled to be officially launched in the Senegambia region of Africa, specifically in Dakar, in the first week of September 2022 at King Fahd Palace Hotel, Dakar, Senegal. Founded by African Union Day Foundation (AUDF) in New York City, the historical event will be graced by numerous diaspora Africans, American citizens, spiritual leaders, and some New York elected officials who have shown interest in visiting Africa and exploring its grandeur. President Macky Sall, current chairman of the African Union, shall lead the launching of the most transformative initiative for the continent. Join us for the epoch-making event, which features orientation and dinner with Senegalese President, Daylight Africa Week and STEM Up Africa Luncheon Celebration, visitation to Gorée Island and sightseeing, meeting with American Ambassador and dinner with the press in Gambia, African Union Day celebration with the First Lady and Odon Nalia Award, and so much more. African Union Day Foundation, a pan-African non-profit organization committed to promoting Africa and anything Africa. For more inquiries, call +171 8822 5555 or email us at daylightafrica@gmail.com. Be there.
Are you curious about financial literacy? Then take a look at Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO's new program on Parrot TV. It's called Financial Focus University. This is an excellent program to learn about questions related to your own finances post-COVID, if how you can manage your money, how you can work with your tax situation. And this is an excellent and informative discussion of financial literacy. With Professor Anthony RIVIECCIO, your financial problems will be solved at Parrot TV with Financial Focus University.
I don't know, Anthony. The last commercial didn't sound too good to me.
Hey, Robert, quick question for you. I forgot to ask you during the Bidenomics segment.
What?
Don't you think that anyone that files taxes should get a guaranteed $1,000 extra refund next year and year after and year after and year after?
Well, we can't do that. The government needs money for all these giveaways that they're doing.
Ladies and gentlemen, join me at 5 p.m. today, where I will show you the one guaranteed method that, all things remaining equal, you can get a $1,000 extra income tax refund year after year after year after year. 5 p.m., Financial Focus University.
Okay, Anthony, let's get back to what we were talking about in the 34th Senate race. Now, do we have a state senator right now? Because Alessandra Biaggi moved in July, the end of July, to Newcastle, which is not in the district anymore. And according to law, state law, you have to live in the district you represent. So does the current 34th state Senate district have a state senator?
Well, she's recognized, but I would presume that will expire on Tuesday.
Because she hasn't been in the district since February. She's been out campaigning in District 3, and then she says, I'll run in District 3 no matter what. Now she's running up in District 17 against Sean Patrick Malone.
But I think that's a little unfair, because I'm sure people like Jerome Nadler and Carolyn Maloney have the same problem.
Well, what I want to say, though, about Alessandra Biaggi, she's done such a lousy job as state senator, and here she is endorsing Natalia Fernandez. So what are we going to have? Another Alessandra Biaggi if Alessandra Biaggi gets in? And why is the Working Families Party involved in the Democratic primary? You can see it right there next to the Democratic, the Bronx Democratic Party. Can you tell me why the Working Families Party would be interested in the Democratic primary, Anthony?
That I couldn't tell you, Robert. All I can tell you based on your earlier statements is that there will be a significant difference between Miss Biaggi and Miss Fernandez, especially the waist side.
Well, what kind of difference can we expect?
Well, I would presume, and I'm only presuming, Miss Biaggi would be more or less about a 4 to 6 waist, where Miss Fernandez would probably be slightly double that. But again, I'm not an expert in those matters.
Well, what people need to do is when you get these mailings, look at who they're from. This one is paid by the Carpenters for Progress.
Yeah, I got that one too.
Why would the Carpenters want to be endorsing Natalia Fernandez?
For the same reason I got one that they supported Miss Camilio. It's called the good old envelope.
Well, we have people in Throggs Neck should, wake up and see this, okay? The Carpenters are going to be the ones who are going to be building that project on Crosby Avenue where the food town is, okay? There's another one, the Masonry Union is also endorsing Natalia Fernandez because they will be building that. And they will be building all of these new houses and projects in the East Side. So if you want somebody who is endorsed by people who will be tearing down your houses and building bigger and newer houses, causing overpopulation in your area, vote for Natalia Fernandez. Okay? But when the Bronx Times interviewed her, the question was, what is your biggest single issue facing the district? Her answer was climate change. Then when they asked, the Bronx continues to be the leader in unemployment with the highest rate of joblessness of any county in New York State based on the latest Labor Department data. What can be done to encourage job creation in the borough? And she talks about before the pandemic, blah, 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 blah. But you've been in office for how long, Natalia Fernandez? Why haven't you done something about job creation?
Hey, Kevin, I see one of our visitors has joined us, and according to him, he's late. Nice to see you, Kevin. Bob, to answer your question, I think that's a very ridiculous statement. I know you didn't make it. I know she did. But that's such a ridiculous statement.
Correct.
Job growth has gone down nationally, courtesy of the policies of our wonderful President Joe Biden. But as I also said to you off air, it seems like Joe Biden and Natalia Fernandez think exactly alike. They believe that higher taxes lowers inflation.
Okay, question number 3. The state legislature has been reluctant to address its bail reform laws that were enacted in 2020, despite repeated calls from law enforcement, business owners, the mayor, and even some Democrats, notably Eric Adams. With the perception New York City has become soft on crime, what do you think should be done so the residents feel safe? She says the bail reform laws were enacted in 2020 where critical civil rights legislation that were needed to reform our prison system. We should not criminalize poverty. Our communities deserve to feel safe. I'm open to modifications where certain areas of the law are not working. We should always be evaluating an impact. So, I mean, didn't she read what she was voting for? If she's open to changing it, you should have known that when you passed the law. Why didn't you say, well, Mr. Speaker, there's a problem here. I think we may have a problem on this part of this law. No, you just signed it as if, you were a robot. Correct, Anthony?
Well, Bob, I don't know if I go that far. It could be one of two things. And I actually think it's a combination of both. I think it's a combination of, she's someone that when she was a kid, she wasn't from the Bronx. She knows nothing of the 1970s. So she probably read the 1970s in a book, or in a movie. So she probably believed that these policies were good for society. Like a lot of our younger generation today, they believe these new policies are good for our society. Now, to give her a little bit of credit, just a little bit, anything can be modified and tweaked, right? Nothing's 100% perfect, right? So you put something in place, no matter how good or bad you think it is, it can always be tweaked, right? I find it more amazing that she didn't mention specifically what some of those problems are. right? It's very easy for me to say, oh, well, I just waxed my apartment, but I still got problems, right?
Well, at the end,
but what are
Anthony,
the problems, right? If I got a leaky roof, then me waxing the floor don't mean anything.
she says, as a state senator, I will advocate for increased police infrastructure, more patrolling in our community where they're desperately needed. So that means that she's not doing anything right now about it. And she's over there advocating defund the police right now. So as an assemblywoman, you're going to defund the police, but as a senator, you're going to advocate for the police? I can't believe that. Now, the next question, how would you structure health care in the state? Do you support universal health care? All three candidates said yes, they support universal health care. Now, the last question was the pandemic exposed.
Wait a minute, Robert, wait a second. Universal health care. Isn't that something that Mr. Not 62, State Senator Gustavo Rivera, has had on the table now for about 10, 11 years?
That was in conjunction with the former borough president. The former
borough president is not the chair of the state health committee. So
Correct.
I'll ask you again, isn't Mr. Not 62, Senator Gustavo Rivera, had a universal health care bill in the Senate for over 10 years?
and
So
he
where
has,
is it? Where is it? How come he's not doing his job?
he has said, like other things, laws don't get passed sometimes right away. It takes time. All right, if you were watching the BronxNet debate, you would have seen that he said it takes
Yeah, but Bob, when is the time? He created Not 62 10 years ago for, quote, a healthier Bronx. Now, when he said healthy, I thought he meant people maybe losing weight. I didn't know he meant them gaining 20, 30, 40 pounds.
Well, I mean, give me an example of somebody gaining weight like that. I mean, are you talking,
himself?
you talking about fat cat assembly members?
Pictures. Look at his own pictures.
Well, it seems
and anyone
like
that's been advocating for these policies. Look at the people, look at some of the underlink organizations that are a part of Not 62. Again, look at the before and after shots. You know what? I can use 10, 20 pounds. Can I have some of that? Can I have some of that Not 62 milkshakes that they're giving out?
All right, Anthony, let me finish this up. There's one more question. The pandemic exposed what has been a looming mental crisis, health crisis. What steps would you take to address mental health in this state from a legislative standpoint, and does it require additional funding? Answer, I fought for everyone in the district to have access to mental health care by increasing funds in the Bronx for mental health clinics, and advocating for suicide prevention resources. In my campaign for state senate, I have the support of the National Association of Social Workers, PACE, who offer critical support to people of the district. I'm proud of my track record of supporting social workers and fighting for mental health access in Albany. It's something I intend to build on as a state senator. If she's intending to build on it, that means she hasn't done it. All right. And of course,
well, the first thing that comes to mind, in my opinion, is how many healthcare workers in her district have lost jobs.
Well, that's it. Exactly. That is the question. Now, I also have to say one thing. She also said there's a question of what makes you outstanding over your opponents, which the Bronx Times didn't use. Okay. And she put her constituent work. Now, I have to tell you about her constituent work. During the pandemic, I applied online for my driver's license when it expired. And they said, well, we're having a problem. Drive with your expired driver's licenses. Well, after a couple of months of driving with my expired driver's license, I went into the state assemblywoman's office. Of course, I live around the corner from Assemblywoman Fernandez's assembly office. So naturally, when I lived in Riverdale, if I had a problem with the state, I went to Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz, who took care of it. Jeffrey Dinowitz was a wonderful assemblyman. So I go over, she assigns me one of her staffers. And after 2 weeks, I go back and say, it's been 2 weeks already. Can't you do anything? Well, no, we can't do anything for you, but we'll give you a letter of support, which I still haven't gotten. And when I said to her staff worker, but the governor has declared me an essential worker, the answer was, well, what's that? So this is the kind of staff that Assemblywoman Fernandez has. They take 2 weeks to tell you they can't do anything. When you say that you're an essential worker, they don't know what an essential worker is. What kind of people is she hiring, Assemblywoman Fernandez? And do we want that in the state Senate? Okay. By the way, Anthony, a friend of mine at a press conference said to me, why don't you call the governor's hotline for the media? Which I did the next day. And within they connected me directly to DMV. I told them the problem. They said they would check into it. And 4 days later, I got my driver's license. Why couldn't our Assemblywoman do that? Okay. It is
probably Bob, for the same reason that as Assemblywoman representing Bedford Park Norwood, she has received several consumer complaints about housing repairs. I know that because I organized it myself. And I can tell you that not one case during the last 2-3 year period has been fully resolved.
Well, Anthony.
So in her status as Assemblywoman going into that, that's just our opinion here in Bedford Park.
Let me answer Mr.
He has not represented Bedford Park Norwood, despite being the local leader in any capacity.
All right, there is Anthony, there's a message up. Anthony, there's a message up. Robert Press is technically an ignorant campaigning for Natalia Fernandez. What an irony. Keep cramming her name in, James Packer. No, Mr. Packer, I am not campaigning for Assemblywoman Fernandez. I am hoping the voters do not vote for her and would vote for somebody who wants law and order, which is John Perez. If anything, if you want to say anything, I might be campaigning for John Perez, who is an 18-year Army veteran who will bring back law and order to the district.
Mr. Packer, thank you for commenting. I appreciate you watching the show. I'm sure Mr. Press and all of the Parrot TV staff appreciate you watching the show. If you didn't watch it last week, yes, Mr. Press has already pronounced that he's going to vote for John Perez. He hasn't given us one good reason yet, but he's already pronounced that he's going to vote for John Perez.
Because he's not for defunding the police. He's for giving the police more resources. Now, I also want to ask Natalia Fernandez, this is from her borough president race, as you'll see borough president there. Why is your fist raised? Okay. What are you supporting Mussolini here or whatever, or someone else? Why the raised fist? Okay, Natalia Fernandez. Now I'll turn it over to the Northwest Bronx Democrats report. Anthony, take it away.
Ladies and gentlemen, and Mr. Parker, I hope you don't think of it as the way it might come out, but having the Northwest Bronx Democrats report, we feel, of course, we want to cover Bronx-related issues, Bronx-related policies. Of course, we can talk about our area, but we want to talk about the whole Bronx. And this one, yes, has to do with the current Senate candidate, Miss Natalia Fernandez. But more important than that, our position has to do with policy or lack thereof. Rezoning, ladies and gentlemen. If you're not familiar, the Northeast Bronx, starting in September, are going to be getting several zoning proposals. And these zoning proposals will be upzoning proposals. Who is in charge, technically, of those things? New York City, not New York State. This is where your council member, this is where your city levels of government, including the local community board, get involved and try to come up with some agreements or decisions. Can state legislatures get involved? Of course they can. We had our state legislator get involved here 20 years ago. Well, not 20 years ago, but 10 years ago in Bedford Park when we had our rezoning issue. What did they do? They did a variety of indirect things, such as put together letter writing campaigns, as far as putting together rallies, as far as testifying. These are the indirect things that a state or a congressional representative can do. But directly, the state can do nothing. So for Miss Natalia Fernandez to override the councilwoman there, Marjorie Velasquez, and say I'm going to save the day from this rezoning, in our opinion, is a whole lot of malarkey. It's a whole lot of campaign rhetoric. And we tell the audience, remember, zoning has to do with the city. And zoning is going to continue all over the Bronx. Congress has nothing to do with it. State has nothing to do with it. New York City has everything to do with it. So contact your local community board, contact your local council person, contact City Hall. Because if you're worried about upzoning in your area, those are the areas where those discussions will take place. Not in the state, not in the assembly, not in the Senate. Back to you, Robert.
Well, I must disagree with you on that, Anthony, because it's if you have good elected officials, they can statewide, as you saw in Community Board 8. Where
Bob, I just told you that in our area, and in that time we did have good state officials that got indirectly involved, but directly they can't do anything. They can't vote for it. They can't vote against it. So everything else, no, Bob, Bob, again, and forgive me, audience, but I always got to educate Bob and the audience to the fact that you're looking at a person that has lived through, I lived through it for 20-something years. Well, so all the state could do is just like Vanessa Gibson is doing now as borough president. Rah, 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 rah. Got no money. Rah, 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 rah. And don't get me wrong. The rah, rah helps when it's used appropriately.
Let me speak, Anthony. How did the Montefiore Medical Center, 11 stories or 6 stories even, as a compromise, get defeated in Community Board 8? Assemblyman Jeffrey Dinowitz and State Senator Jeff Klein got involved and made a law that was passed through both legislature houses and signed by Andrew Cuomo that said no medical facility in the Bronx can be higher than 3 stories or larger than 3,000 square feet.
And question for you, Robert. At that time, between Senator Jeff Klein and Assemblyman Dinowitz, how much combined legislative experience did they have?
Well, Jeffrey had about 20 years. Both Jeffreys, actually. Jeffrey Klein came in and he had about.
So they have 40 years of experience. As I look at that plan right now and your boundaries, you don't have any elected officials which therefore have 0 experience. So are you expecting a law created by 2 legislators that we right now? No, I don't know who they are. You just said Ms. Biaggi does not represent the area, right? So that's one gone, right?
That is correct.
Ms. Fernandez is expected to win, so she'll be out of the assembly. So right now, you got an assembly and a Senate in that neck of the woods that A, is not represented, you said it yourself, and B, therefore, has no representation.
And Anthony,
you're counting that?
Anthony, let me speak, Anthony.
40 years of legislative experience?
Let me say something, Anthony, because Assemblywoman Fernandez, along with Assemblyman Benedetto, also said, oh, we have a press conference. All of a sudden, the range there at Rodman's Neck is bothering people. So we're going to have it covered, or we're going to change it so it don't affect the people. It's polluting the water, which was already polluted from the dump that was there, Pelham Bay dump, all right, and polluting the land.
You mean that's the climate change I've been hearing about? That's what everybody's talking about with the climate change? Oh, my God, there's garbage in the water. Oh, God.
I'm going to have to push a button to stop you. So here are 2 assembly
members.
Maybe
the garbage is from the new homeless that's coming in the area.
Anthony, here are 2 assembly members. At the time, one of them is running for state senator, trying to get votes around the Rodman's Neck area there on the water in Edgewater Park, I believe it is, or whatever, saying that we're going to take care of Rodman's Neck, okay? Which ain't going to happen because, like you say, Anthony, that's a city facility, and they have no control over a city facility. All right.
But it makes good news. But it makes good newspaper copy.
You're correct on that, and makes certain people, well, I'm going to do this, and I'm going to do that, and I'm going to do this. All right, but it don't get done because how long has Michael Benedetto been in the assembly? 15 years.
Yeah, but Bob, this is where now you got to learn as a campaign manager, right? You just said John Perez been in the service for 2 decades. You got to have him wear his uniform, get next to a cop, you as the campaign manager take the picture, and then you can sell that, Bob.
Anthony, Christian Amato tried that, but Mr. Perez checked with the Department of Defense and said that, yes, he can wear his uniform anytime he wants, as long as it's proper and not out of whack, meaning that as long as it's correct and not phony, that he,
no, that's not what it means. What it means is that I can't wear the hat without wearing the uniform, and vice versa. I can't wear the pants without wearing the uniform.
Yes, and that's why you see soldiers on Veterans Day, and you see some outside of Veterans Day, okay? Because they are very proud to have served in their armed forces. All right, like Mr. Perez, they are very proud. Mr. Perez was wounded overseas in battle.
Lord.
What do you want me to say, Anthony?
Okay. Tell me, I'm going to ask you the same question I asked you last week. If you want to vote for John Perez, that's your choice. All I'm looking for is one good district-related reason. Give me, what has he done on crime in the district? What has he done about guns in the district? What has he done about cleaning parks in the district? What has he done about sanitation in the district? You don't want to vote for Natalia? That's fine. You don't want to vote for Christian? That's fine. You have the constitutional right to do whatever you want. But tell me one reason why you should vote for John Perez district-wide.
I was with John Perez at NYCHA houses in Castle Hill. John took an inspection of all the houses when he was district leader and made a report on it. Unfortunately, he was not district leader anymore, and the assembly member, Carinas Reyes, and the state senator did not act on it. Well, actually, it's a city issue, so the city didn't act on it. So the city didn't do anything, but News 12 was there, and it was noted on News 12 the conditions of the Castle Hill NYCHA houses.
Has anything happened as a result of that?
There has been, windows have been fixed, elevators have been fixed. Yes, there have been minor maintenance problems that have been fixed. There have been walls that have been fixed.
Now, this report that you're mentioning, you said he was district leader, that he wasn't. So that was like 4, 5, 6 years ago we're talking about.
No, Anthony. He was elected in 2018 to 2020. So that's only 2 years ago that he was out of position. And speaking of out of something, it looks like we're out of time right now. So, Anthony, any final word?
Ladies and gentlemen, let me wish you a happy weekend. It's supposed to be a nice weekend as we get towards the summertime. I want you to press the subscribe button so that way you can get to see Robert press his forehead with no glasses every Friday at 12 noon. Join us for Financial Focus University at 5 p.m. where you can get an extra $1,000 tax refund. So that way when you give to the muckety mucks, you can get some of that money back.
And check my blog for all these income tax preparers who are going to jail for falsifying tax reports. And let me just say thank you for watching. And I hope you tune in next week where we hope to have a guest. And our borough president, Vanessa Gibson, is doing a wonderful job. Thank you for watching.
Oh, boy.
In a world where the quality of information available to poorer communities is doctored, tainted, and sometimes regressive, where the words fake news have come to mean other people's opinions, it is vital to rely on news platform with journalists who have feet on the ground and can report the truth. New York Parrot, a New York-based national and global news outlet, is changing the narratives of media operations. We focus on the news that matters, like self-empowerment, entrepreneurship, finances, health, security, politics, and more. We strive to curb violence, racial and economic discrimination, and to promote peace and socio-economic development of multiculturally diverse world. As we give voice to the people, we also give your business a voice and make it heard. Get your products and services off the ground by advertising on our fast-growing platform. With so much of daily visits to New York Parrot, you can't afford to be invisible to prospective clients on the websites they trust the most. Our posts reach millions of people across the New York State and around the world. Advertising on our new site will unlock an audience of thousands of potential customers on your doorstep. New York Parrot is born to prosperously speak tomorrow for the voiceless.